The idea for Corugami started back in 2018. My goal when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey was to create a company that can sort of design products that can replace unsustainable options available in the market. So when we started off, actually, we started off designing everyday household products or office products for various brands. And during this process, a few of our clients actually asked us, "Hey, we have some requirements for packaging. Would you be able to help us?" And that's when we gave it a shot. And in that process of sort of in just designing generic products, we realized that there's a very big gap that exists in the market. And this sort of gap is largely unfilled because there are the two kinds of players in the market back then. So there are the manufacturers who are stuck in their old ways, are just making what they already know for the last 20, 30 years. And then there are the branding agencies, which are focused only on the visual aspect of packaging. So there's nobody for sort of focus on the functional as well as material aspect of packaging. And this is something that a lot of brands are looking to incorporate into the packaging, and they had no way to do it. So that's when we thought that our focus as a company, using my knowledge as an engineer, as well as building a team that is focused on different materials, we can actually build a packaging company that can offer these solutions in a meaningful, functional manner to brands of all sizes, from really small home startups to large startups. For me, it was not never about just doing something to make money for the sake of it. It was when I wanted to do something, I wanted to ensure that it has a larger impact. The key to the idea was also, very early on, I met Satej, who's our co-founder, and he's our head of design at Corugami. And he's been a key part in sort of evolving what that process of design means for packaging, because this is something which is absolutely uncharted territory, because there are no brands doing that. So there's no benchmark for it. And this is something that we had to literally create an industry which didn't exist. The name Corugami actually is maybe obvious. It's a transaction of two words, which is corrugation and origami. Simply because corrugation was one of the primary materials we were using when we started off early. And the whole idea of origami is something that really inspires us because it embodies everything that Corugami stands for, right? Forming complex structures with really simple, clean mechanism without any glue, and forming really meaningful functional designs. So that's how the name came about. Every project as at Corigami is different, and I think that's something that really keeps us also on our toes, is because no two projects are the same. And we also work with a really wide range of clients. So we're working with very small home startups to large brands which have very complex supply chains. So when we typically focus or work on these projects, our goal always is very clear. We want to be a partner to these companies to help them sort of make sure that they're able to make that switch to sustainable packaging in a very efficient manner. So when it comes to large brands, a lot of the focus is around sort of phasing out the traditional packaging that they're using and convincing all the stakeholders in an organization to actually make the switch. So that's when we work with them as real partners, right from conceptualizing an idea to detailing it, doing on-ground trials, whether it's in a factory, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's in their store, working with their purchase team, their quality team, their design team, all the stakeholders to convince everybody, to bring everybody on board, and to ensure that this actually the packaging actually gets implemented. Because we think of ourselves as a more than just designers. Our goal is not just to give a design and say, okay, now you figure out how you want to put it in the market. Our goal is to ensure that it actually gets deployed in the market so that the conventional packaging, which is not recyclable, is phased out. And on the other hand, when we're working with smaller companies, typically that project is it's a very simple brief or a task where they say, okay, I'm having a problem, this is breaking, what can you do? Or I want to design, I'm launching a new brand and I need to have like a PR kit, which will consist of an influencer box that I want really my brand to get out there. So that's when we would go in with a very clear brief saying, okay, this is the client, this is how much they want to spend on it, and this is the kind of ethos that the brand has. That's what the packaging should signify. And we go through the design process. And very often for smaller brands, we also help them with the manufacturing. So we do some of the manufacturing in-house ourselves with certain materials, or we work with our dedicated partners to ensure that the packaging is manufactured and delivered to them exactly how it was designed, because that becomes a very big hurdle for smaller brands to actually go and buy it, to be able to access manufacturers to ensure the quality is correct. One of the designs that's the closest to my heart is the one that we've done for glass bottle solutions, which is called Unbreaker. So this again is a story which started when we had just sort of understood who we are going to be and our focus on functional design. And that's when Satyajit, the founder of TBOF, actually approached me because he got to know I was doing this and he was a senior of mine in school. And their brief was very clear. They were growing as a brand, but they were trying, so they had consciously sort of used glass bottles to ship their premium ghee out, but they were facing a large amount of breakages. As well as generally they had a need to sort of also make sure that the packaging becomes more sustainable, because the brand was always a sustainable first brand. And while they're also selling a premium product, they want to ensure that the customer experience at the end is really premium, right? So when you get a ghee, you shouldn't have to find a scissor, a knife, go through a bunch of mess just to access the product in there. So that's when we sort of got in there. We really went down to their factory, to their warehouse. We understood the entire supply chain. We actually followed a package all the way through the delivery, through the post, to see to every center it goes. And that's when we realized how packages are handled in India, right? Nobody cares whether there's a fragile sticker on it or what is in it. It's just tossed or chucked. And that's when the idea for conceptualizing this solution for Unbreaker came about, where we wanted to focus on a solution that would made it really easier for brands to sort of pack glass bottles, but also do it at scale. So it was not just about finding a solution which would provide some cushioning, put in some stuff here, put it there, but it was about actually forming a functional solution that could completely make this modular. So as they scale, they were able to do it. So we chose a more conventional material like corrugation, and this is completely made out of recycled paper. And the focus on this is that we've designed a structure which, after a lot of evolution, like we almost went through 50 to 60 iterations, we were able to develop a structure where the structure itself is able to absorb the shock that is typically passed on to a glass bottle when it falls in, which is what causes the breakage. So this innovative structure is made out of a single sheet of corrugated board, and it folds, locks, and gives the structural sort of benefit rather than having a very complex sort of mechanism which is put in there into the box, and it really depends on who's packing it. So this was something which, and when we implemented this, their breakages went down 100%. So they went from having 3% of all their bottles breaking to 0% breaking, and also not sort of not even taking into account the costs associated with the excess tape, the excess bubble wrap, and all of that they were using, which all got eliminated. Today, there are a large variety of sustainable materials that are available in the market. So they range from the more traditional materials like certain papers, jute, to newer materials like bio-based polymers, starches, agricultural waste, etc. But however, all of them have some challenges, right? It's not so easy that we just sort of implement it. The traditional materials often are sort of undervalued or misunderstood. People have overlooked the potential of these materials. They've been used for hundreds of years in a very in a way that is typecast in people's mind. As example, jute. You always think of the jute bag or a gunny bag for transporting grains, which is used in India. So, but to think of reimagine and think of jute as something which can be modern, which can be new, and that can solve packaging problems for quick commerce. That's something that requires a little bit of lateral thinking, and it requires a little bit of R&D and research to bring that about. And on the other side, you have a lot of these newer sort of biomaterials that are coming up. But several of them are in various stages of experimentation or have been just done by a single company at a very small scale. It's not a switch where you switch from sustainability to or from non-sustainable to sustainable. It's a journey that a brand has to follow. So you first focus on seeing what can be solved with conventional materials. What is the excess packaging that you can eliminate? Can you switch to simple things like remove the excess amount of glue in your packaging? Can you move to non-toxic inks from toxic inks? And as part of this journey, there will be certain products for which there are really good modern sustainable solutions available, and that's when we encourage brands to make the switch to take a modern material rather than just force fitting it in the beginning and putting a label on it and saying now my packaging is all sustainable. But in packaging, at least my philosophy is very clear. I mean, good design is less design. So, because when the whole idea of sustainability is to lower your resource consumption, so we always focus on trying to keep it as simple as possible. And simple, of course, doesn't mean that you don't get your brand message across. It doesn't mean that you have to only use a brown box. It just means that everything that goes into a packaging has a purpose, it has a function. It's not there just because it's there. And this is sort of the key principle that guides our design when we are focusing on designing it for brands. Also, as part of the material innovation, at Corugami, we have also set up a separate division called Corugami Labs, where our focus is on solving the harder problems of packaging and basically tomorrow's problems. So these are problems that don't get solved in a month or in 2 months. They take maybe a year or 2 years to solve. So one of the things that we are currently working on is sustainable thermal insulation packaging. So with the rise of quick commerce and a lot of e-commerce, a lot of chocolate products, temperature sensitive products like chocolates, sweets, mithais are being required to be shipped. Which was never the case earlier, right? So, and today the only alternate, the packaging available to ship these are plastic-based insulations. So that is where we have begun the process. We've been in it actually for the last year and a half, where we are designing an insulated packaging solution using more conventional materials that are already available in India. For example, we're exploring shola from Bengal, which is a natural reed that has insulation properties. We are exploring agricultural waste products. So there are certain types of agricultural waste which can be formed into a layer which has air trapped in, which has insulation properties, or even trying to explore waste cloth, which is again one of our biggest problems today, to see how we can incorporate these into a sustainable solution that is scalable at large volumes. And along with this insulation, we're also working on a sustainable ice pack solution. And the whole idea of this is that while today a lot of the ice packs you get are reusable, there's only a finite number that you can keep in your house once you get two or three. So there needs to be a way to sort of get rid of them, but safely and in a meaningful manner. So we are coming up with 100% sort of biodegradable that can be put into your wet waste at home, sort of ice pack that will become a set that will go along with the sustainable insulation solution that we are designing.